This week, Jonny praises the sun with an early look at Dark Souls 2. Mel spends some time exploring the Elder Scrolls Online. Is it more than just Skyrim with friends? And I catch up with Pete Hines from Bethesda to chat all things Wolfenstein: The New Order. This is Player Attack. Hi, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this week security has been in the spotlight as it was discovered that Valve's anti-cheat system, VAC, was looking through your DNS history. Gamers were more than a little concerned. Did this mean that the Half-Life developer was able to see what adult interest sites you were visiting? Simply put, no, the publisher doesn't want to know. Thanks. Gabe Newell, Valve CEO, has confirmed that yes, the company was looking at your DNS records. It was looking for something very specific, and it's not looking anymore. The system used was actually more complicated than just trawling through your history. Instead, if you tested positive for a particular type of cheat, then Valve would check to see if your machine was also contacting a certain web server known to host cheat content. If found, then your account was banned. And while it still might sound scary, Gabe reassures fans that it's not, really. Less than 0.1% of gamers triggered the DNS check, and that's just 570 cheaters have been banned due to the history scan, which is out of millions of gamers who use Valve software. In other news, Ken Levine has posted an open letter announcing that he is winding down Irrational Games at the studio that he founded nearly 20 years ago. Moving forward, Levine will head up a small-scale operation with around 15 of the Irrational team working on digital-only, narrative-driven games. This signals the end of Levine's relationship with BioShock, as the IP will be handed over completely to publisher 2K Games. The future of the once-promised BioShock for Vita is still somewhat cloudy. 2K Games has said there is no update on the status of the game, that is, unstarted, despite being first announced nearly 3 years ago. Continuing the disappointing news this week, Oculus has admitted that it will have to suspend sales of its Rift VR headset as it's simply too popular and the company can no longer source certain components. It's a good problem to have, says the company, who has shipped more than 50,000 developer kits, but Oculus doesn't know when it will be able to resume production of new headsets. A couple of weeks ago, we told you about Duke Nukem Mass Destruction, the brand new action RPG Return of the King. While the game has still not officially been announced by developers 3D Realms and Interceptor Entertainment, both studios have found themselves in court being sued over IP infringement. The company doing the suing? Gearbox Software, developers of Duke Nukem Forever and owners of the rights to Duke Nukem.
What do we know? There was an explosion at Blackgate about 6 hours ago. They think maybe an escape attempt went bad.
How many hostages?
The entire prison staff. Batman. They're all in there. From petty thieves to the worst of the worst. And almost every one of them has a grudge against you.
Then they're about to get their shot.
That is our first look at Batman Arkham Origins Blackgate Deluxe Edition. It's a revamped version of last year's game, out only for 3DS and PlayStation Vita. Now it's getting a shiny HD makeover and will be hitting PS3, Xbox 360, Wii U and Steam from April 2nd. In other quick news, Tony Hawk has stepped up to the halfpipe, announcing that he and Activision are working on a new game. There's no news on titles, platforms, timeframes or development studios, but Mr. Hawk promises it's pretty cool. Now, we're talking Wolfenstein: The New Order a little later in the show, but in case you're the sort of person who's not yet convinced by the return of BJ Blazkowicz, Bethesda's throwing you a little something something to sweeten the deal. That is, guaranteed access to the beta test for Doom 4. Technically, the game is now known simply as Doom, all in caps because it's super exciting, and the theory is that if you're fond of one old school gaming franchise, chances are you'll be fond of another one too. Wolfenstein: The New Order hits shelves from May 20th for PC, PS3, PS4, Xbox One and Xbox 360, but there's no word on just when Doom will be playable at this stage. And finally this week, Microsoft is celebrating the upcoming launch of Titanfall by releasing a shiny new bundle with the Xbox One. If you've been waiting for the game heralded as being the console's killer app, now your choice is easy. This nifty limited edition brings with it a copy of Titanfall, an Xbox One and Kinect, a wireless controller, chat headset and 1 month's Xbox Live Gold membership. Did we mention it's set to retail in Australia for $5.99, the same price as the console without the game? You'll be able to grab the Titanfall Xbox One bundle from March 11th, the same day the game hits the shelves. To keep up to date with the latest gaming news, head to playerattack.com, but for now, stick around, we've got plenty more still to come.
Dark Souls, Dark Souls, Dark Souls. Where do I even begin? I love this franchise. Hell, I love it more than Cyndi Lauper's Girls Just Want to Have Fun, and that is saying something. Whether I'm exploring the dangerous beauty of Anor Londo and dying, or spending meticulous hours grinding for loot and dying, or uncovering the amazing and crazy in-depth lore and, surprisingly enough, dying. Dark Souls is my jams, and I'm here to tell you, with some hands-on time with Dark Souls 2, I am ready to die all over again. First things first, for all of you who are scared to dip your toe into my favorite masochistic pastime, here's the heads up. Dark Souls 2 is probably the most accessible out of all of the Souls games so far. Upon creating my ultimately doomed knight Jim, a name that strikes fear into all of those who cross her, I was hit with straight up, non-cryptic narrative that involved no Sherlock Holmesing on my part to decipher, explaining the Hollow Curse, why I'm here, and even the lore of the land. Then, hold on to your butts here, guys. The game actually gives you a tutorial, like how to actually do stuff, which was great because I changed how to do that sassy little jump I'm so fond of, amongst some other really important things. But veteran Souls players, do not worry. If you're well versed in Dark Souls, you'll be backstabbing like a fully fledged Sunbro in seconds. Now that we've got that hand-holding segment out of the way, I can assure you this, Dark Souls 2 will make you cry, and question everything you thought you were good at. The guys at From Software clearly thought that Dark Souls 1 was not punishing enough, and have decided to up the pain factor with a few minor yet soul-destroying tweaks. The first one, the health milling system from Dark Souls is back. For those not familiar with this cruel mechanic, it means every time you die, which is a very regular occurrence, your maximum health decreases incrementally on each death, until you're left with 50% of what you had, and a bucket full of tears where your confidence used to be. The second major one, you start with 1 Estus Flask, count it, 1, and it barely heals you at all. This combined with the fear of losing sweet HP on death leads to a much more methodical, dare I even say cowardly, approach to every fight, really instilling your place in this Dark Souls 2 universe and the importance of healing items above all else.
We undead will never die. You'll go horror instead. Become one of them.
Visually, Dark Souls 2 did not fail to impress. Each of the 3 areas I somewhat bravely gallivanted through were varied, beautiful, and begging to be explored. I started off in a dense, lush forest, made my way through the crumbling regal ruins that look kinda like Anor Londo, and ended up in an underground shantytown with a frickin' pirate ship. Each area had a character all unto itself, with rarely a dull sight to behold. And oh, that feeling you need to explore? Yeah, that's a must. I actually played through a good hour of the game without an Estus Flask, because I actually missed who to talk to. The good news is, you can warp between all bonfires, or checkpoints, straight off the bat with no Lord Vessel required. This makes popping back to earlier locations you ran through, out of fear of being separated from your torso, not as much of a chore, really instilling that need for exploration. But Jonny, what of the enemies? Well, let me tell you, those chumps rustle your jimmies every chance they get, and look really awesome doing it. The placement of them in the environment seems much less random, like they actually live there or something, leading to some truly brutal ambushes and heart-pumping encounters. The bosses I saw were grand and petrifying, and getting to them required the patience of a saint. Even hollows in this game, the lowest of the low, are to be treated with the caution of a megaton blast, able to parry your blows and put you down with the greatest of ease, and with it, shatter your reality like the announcement in Space Jam 2. Wait, they did that. All in all, Dark Souls 2 looks like it's going to be a true sequel in every sense of the word. It's going to be brutal, cruel, and demeaning, but at the same time beautiful, deep, and rewarding. The game hits shelves from March 13th for Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and Windows. But until then, keep praising the sun, brothers and sisters.
BJ Blazkowicz.
I thought I was a goner, and here you are, back from the dead.
Ready to set things straight, Wyatt.
I like you.
Why was this the right time to bring BJ back?
I think it goes back to the Machine Games guys. Back a lot of them came from Starbreeze and worked on games like Chronicles of Riddick and The Darkness, games that combined a number of different types of gameplay, and they felt like they wanted to bring that approach into something that loved and mattered to them, like Wolfenstein. And we said, great, the id guys were all for it, and we're on board with the kind of things they wanted to do, which is take a shooter and add character and story to add different types of gameplay, so it's not just a shooter. Explore a little bit about who BJ is, because in the previous games he was just the guy you were playing. You didn't really have a personality, and now he does.
Why was this chosen to be a reboot rather than a sequel?
So it's true to the Wolfenstein timeline in terms of it continues the overarching story, and what they wanted to do was bring Wolfenstein out of the World War II era and into explore the idea of what happens if the Nazis won the war. And BJ, at the start of the game, you start off in World War II, BJ gets knocked out, goes into a coma, and awakes in the 1960s and discovers that the Nazis have taken over the world. And so it's changed from he's part of this army that's fighting for right and to save the world to the world's been lost and the Nazis are under control, and now he's got to find the resistance and start to fight back, which is all he knows. He loves killing Nazis.
Must have been a really fun alternative history to try and explore.
Absolutely. It sort of allows us to take what would happen if the Nazis take over the world and combine it with 1960s pop culture and how that might have evolved under Nazi rule, and what you get is Wolfenstein: The New Order.
I know that many people who fell in love with the original Wolfenstein loved it for its multiplayer components. You guys have chosen a slightly different path with this new one.
Yeah, at Bethesda, we're big believers that single-player games are perfectly fine, that you don't need to add multiplayer if it's not core to the experience. Machine Games pedigree, the guys there are known for their single-player experience, and we didn't feel like tacking on multiplayer just to have it, just because. So we were perfectly fine with, no, stick to what you guys know best and make the best game possible. And so there's lots of games out there that feature multiplayer, but Wolfenstein is going to be single player only.
Have you copped much flack?
There's some folks that say, it'd be cool, or Return to Castle Wolfenstein I had so much fun playing it in multiplayer. But honestly, I think people overwhelmingly appreciate our decision to stick with what works and to not tack on something that wouldn't be good. It would just be there to be there.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the story element of the game?
So it is something that we wanted to expand on a lot more. BJ has a voice, he's got a personality. We wanted to explore that. What kind of guy is he? Exploring the personality of the people that he tries to find and help enlist in his effort to fight against the Nazis. He's got a bit of a love interest in Anya, one of the principal characters that you come across early in the game. And we use a lot of cutscenes to help tie things together and move the story along. And I think it helps you connect with BJ, it helps you connect with what it is you're doing, it helps you connect with the other people that you come across in the world, and sort of makes the things and the choices that you make in the game more meaningful. We make you make a pretty dark decision very early on in the game, a who lives and who dies kind of decision that has an impact throughout the rest of the game. And I think using story and developing characters through narrative, through cutscenes, help make those choices much more meaningful.
Is that the only decision that you can make that then will impact on the rest of the game?
That's certainly the major one. The other decisions you make really are how you approach the game. So if you're a lot more stealthy, you don't go in guns blazing, but you use stealth to try and take out enemies, it'll have an impact in terms of perks that you unlock for BJ, things that he can do. It'll have an impact on simple things like the number of enemies you have to kill, because if you can get rid of enemies quietly without the commander sound the alarm, you've got a lot fewer enemies to face. So things like that will determine, in choices that you're making almost moment to moment, will impact how the game plays for you versus me, depending on how we're playing.
Now, you just mentioned perks. That's also new. What are they about?
Perks are really abilities that you unlock when based on how you play the game. So killing enemies with a grenade will unlock special perks that are related to that. Killing enemies while you're on the move, while sliding, or a stealth killing a commander will unlock things like, well, now you don't have to stab enemies with a knife, you can throw one from a distance. And so as you play through the game, you have these perk trees within different disciplines that play up stealth or melee combat or ranged combat, things like that.
I know you've spoken about how this is not just a straight FPS, there's a lot more to it, and part of that is it's a lot less linear. You can choose different paths to go through the game.
Yeah, it's not a free-form, open to explore game, but it is a game where when you start any particular area, that you have choices on how you're going to move through. And again, part of that is, well, am I going to be stealthy? What kind of weapons am I going to use? But it's also a game that encourages exploration. You'll find secrets and collectibles. You'll find upgrades for BJ's weapons, for BJ himself. And all of those things are really up to the player. The more you want to explore, the more you get rewarded. There's certain collectibles that you have to collect all of to unlock a special game mode, for example. And the only way to unlock that game mode is through finding all the collectibles and all the chapters of a certain type. So it is a game that encourages that, but it doesn't require it.
So what exactly are the weapons that you can play with?
There's a whole range of them. They start sort of with the World War II era and move into more modern versions. You've got the traditional weapons like pistols and assault rifles and shotguns, and then you start to acquire Nazi technology. Part of the story in Wolfenstein is Nazis have acquired really advanced technology, and they've created some really crazy weapons as a result. So you can acquire some of those and start to use them on the enemy as you're facing super soldiers and giant mechs. As you're moving through the game, you keep finding either new weapons or upgrades to your existing weapons that keep keeping the gameplay fresh and the combat new and fun.
Now, you have mentioned super soldiers and giant mechs. They are all still there, right?
Oh, absolutely. All the iconic stuff that you remember from Wolfenstein game makes an appearance here and there, and then we've got a bunch of new enemies for you to face as well.
So, just to recap, newcomers to the series are going to love it. People who love the original game are going to love it. When can we get our hands on it?
Wolfenstein The New Order is coming on May 22nd on PC, Xbox One, Xbox 360, PS4, and PS3.
This country is riven by civil war. The Emperor has fallen, and the ruby throne sits empty. Now is the time to strike.
Even if you're an RPG fan who thinks that Skyrim with friends is a silly idea, The Elder Scrolls Online is well worth checking out. We spent a bit of time with the game in its recent beta test, and while it's polarising the community, there's more than enough there to keep you happy.
I'd welcome you to Whisper Grove, but it's little more than a city of ash at the moment. Please, I don't have time to take care of visitors. My husband Finganian here has been injured, and I have an army of Daedra to deal with.
Kicking things off, you're given 4 classes to choose from, each class with its own 3 base skill trees. Unlike other games though, you don't have to choose a skill tree immediately. You don't even have to choose one eventually, as you can spend your skill points in a number of different places in order to progress. A Dragon Knight could instead invest their preferred weapon and armour lines, gaining special abilities and passive bonuses in that fashion. Or perhaps they could do away with standard combat skills altogether and focus solely on crafting. Playing this from Australia does add a little extra lag to the game. Nothing too bad, but enough to make mastering combat just a little more of a challenge. Before too long though, you'll have the hang of dodging, parrying, attacking and blocking. Each weapon has a basic attack, like a sword slash, arrow shot or magic beam of hurting. These are triggered by clicking your mouse, and if you hold the button down, you can trigger an even heavier attack. Keep an eye on your enemies too. A lot will telegraph their powerful attacks, so if you're alert, you've got plenty of time to get out of the way or right-click to block. Just like we're used to, you start the actual gameplay of The Elder Scrolls Online in jail. Unlike normal though, you aren't able to steal a thing inside your cell. The goblet, the plate of food, both nailed down, just like most things in the opening stages of the game. Take heart though, the traditional urns, crates and barrels start appearing soon enough, with plenty of bits and pieces to keep even the most klepto Khajiit happy. Of course, there's Daedra, Atronachs, mudcrabs and skeletons on your way, but what more do you expect? The Elder Scrolls Online chief bad guy is the Daedric Prince Molag Bal, who has crafted the plan to draw Tamriel into the Daedric realm of Cold Harbour. As you start the game in Cold Harbour, you know firsthand how utterly miserable that would be, so naturally you're tasked with foiling his plan. As with most MMOs, you don't have to stick to the story. Follow the steps far enough and you'll be able to return to Tamriel, where you can start picking up the many varied side quests. You'll be rewarded with experience points for exploring the world, and of course, there's all sorts of treasures to be uncovered in those unattended chests dotted all around the landscape. If you do want to stick with the story, but don't necessarily want to go the way the game spells it out for you, then you can sign up to the Fighters Guild. This gives you access to a new questline and skill tree, which means you can deal with the side effects of Molag Bal's plot rather than the cause itself. Picking these alternate paths and side quests won't necessarily help you to progress towards the level cap quite as quickly as if you followed the main quest, but if you like exploring, it could be a more fun option. The Elder Scrolls Online takes to PvP in a similar way to Guild Wars 2, a three-way fight on a massive map divided by alliance. Picking a character also means picking a side. Bretons, Orcs and Redguards from the Daggerfall Covenant. High Elves, Wood Elves and the Khajiit, Cat People, are the Aldemari Dominion, and the Argonians, Lizard People, Dark Elves and Nords are the Ebonheart Pact. The way Bethesda has approached PvP is interesting. You can join the war effort at level 10. All the characters in Cyrodiil, the massive PvP battleground at the heart of the Empire, are automatically boosted to level 50. This means they get bonus health, magicka, stamina, gear and ability packs. Doesn't mean they get improved characters or better gear, so an inflated level 10 is not quite the same as a genuine level 50. There's still the matter of lag, and playing from Australia will put you at a disadvantage, but it's certainly not a game breaker. You'll die more because of good opponents rather than too much lag. If you're an Elder Scrolls fan, this has the same feeling of stepping into Tamriel for the first time, and all that entails. If you're not a fan yet, you should go pick up Skyrim first, then imagine it with a lick of paint, some new systems and the ability to play with your friends. That's The Elder Scrolls Online.
An empty throne is a beacon. Calling you to reign.
And that's about it for this edition of Player Attack. Thanks for watching. Next week, we step into the amazing open world of The Witcher 3. Jimmy the Geek looks at mascots with attitude, and we spend some quality time with the beta for Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls ahead of the expansion pack's launch in late March. In the meantime, you can catch us on playerattack.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. And if you've got something you want to say, send us an email, mailbox@playerattack.com, or just hop on our forums. Till next week, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this is Player Attack.